What should we do when we're teaching certain types of activities? What are some good teaching principles in general? We're kind of reviewing a little bit of what we've seen before. We're going to go into equals a little bit. As you know, we're pursuing an international accreditation. And so we're going to be we're looking at the activities and tasks that we carry out in class from the perspective of equals, what they're going to be looking for. And then hopefully at the very end, we'll have some time to review some SLA theory, because you're going to have to be knowledgeable about how people learn the language, okay? The process of learning a language, okay? All right, good. All right, so best practices. I'd like to, again, there are certain things we've been looking at over the course of the last 2 months, and there are certain things that have to be present in every single lesson, okay? There are things you have to see at different stages of a lesson. They have to be there or the lesson won't work, okay? Something will go wrong. So let me give you an example. If you're doing a reading activity, okay? What is the first thing as you're transitioning from another activity to the reading activity, say maybe a pronunciation or a speaking or something, and now you're moving into the reading activity? What was the first thing that you usually see with a reading activity that you have to do? Talk to a partner for about 60 seconds, and then let me know what you think, okay? Again, what do we have to see first with a reading activity?
Yeah, maybe the reason you read, I mean, especially if we're talking about...
Cigar? Cigar. Okay. Cigar, well, what do we have to see first, and why?
Well, we were talking about pre-teaching vocabulary, and also make a brief introduction about the topic.
All right. All right. Give me a little more information. What do you mean by a brief introduction to the topic?
Try to, I don't know, make some slides about what if the topic is about music. Maybe try to think about the favorite band of a student, or try to say about genres, or try to give some information that is going to be given on the reading.
All right. So you want the students to think about the topic of music in general. So you're gonna get them to think about their favorite band and talk about it. Is that
Favorite band, favorite type of music.
And then maybe kind of join that with some pre-teaching of vocabulary. Is that the idea? Why is that?
Pre-teaching vocabulary, like to make the reading understandable, so they can read correctly.
Okay, that's the practitioner's explanation. So there we need to pre-teach the words because it might interfere with the flow of the reading once the reading activity is taking place. Is that correct? So we don't want that to happen, because obviously it will lure the student into focusing on individual words when that's exactly what should not take place. Okay.
And the second is the picture, because next to a reading there's always a picture.
Okay.
So if you might guessing what is the picture is about, you got some great ideas on the whiteboard, right? And start asking.
Okay. What does that help us do, or what does that help the student do when we have the student focus on the picture?
And then process. And then process. And if the main idea of the text is about it.
Give the main idea of the text. Okay. Thank you, Marina.
So they can relate to the text. The
So they can relate the topic of the text to what?
the image, the mental image.
From what you already know about that topic. All right. So that ties into what Cigar said before as well. In other words, if we're gonna deal with a reading that's focusing on a certain topic, that topic, the content of that reading must connect to something we already know in relation to that topic. Okay? It's called schema theory. Remember we talked about that? Piaget, and he talked about, okay, before we can learn something new, it has to connect to something that's similar, that might be related, that we might have experienced already. That will facilitate our ability to process that information. Okay? Good. Very good. So let's continue looking at... yes, Martin.
Should we really explain before the guys are reading the text the maybe unknown vocabulary?
Theoretically, the vocabulary, the reading is at a level that would be called I+1, or it would be considered comprehensible input. So it's mostly comprehensible, and it's slightly above the student's productive capacity. In most cases, they should be able to comprehend most of it. Now, if you identify as you're planning your lesson and you're looking at the article and you say, wait a minute, this is going to be very difficult, There are more words here than I would normally anticipate that will not be well known to the students, that they're not going to be able to figure out on their own or by guessing meaning from context. I better pre-teach them. So you're going to have to look at the article first or the text, whatever it is, and come to that conclusion as you're analyzing it at the lesson planning stage. Okay? Good. All right. So here we have a number of different activities. The 5-point approach. So I'd like you to think about working groups again. Okay? Maureli? Is that your name?
Yeah.
Maureli. Because you're all by yourself there, because I need you to work with... we got all three, perfect threes, but you can work with the gentleman behind you, okay? They're nice gentlemen, very nice guys, okay? And no, you're not, no? Okay, well, except him, all right? Anyway, all right. I'd like you to think, to choose two of these, any of these from the list. Now, I'd like you to think about 5 prerequisites, 5 must-dos when you are, for example, executing or carrying out an activity or task in the classroom. 5 must-dos or must-haves when you're dealing with classroom management, okay, in order to do it successfully. Or when you're dealing with the use of technology to facilitate learning in the classroom. You're going to pick 2 of these. You're not going to do all of them, okay? You're going to work together, you're going to pick 2 of them. Accuracy, if you want your students to be more accurate when they're speaking or when they're writing. What are 5 things all teachers must do or must consider in order to achieve that? Student motivation. You want to keep your students motivated and engaged. What are 5 must-dos or must-haves? And finally, lesson planning. When you're planning your lesson, what is indispensable? What is a prerequisite for you to do to make sure that that lesson planning is successful? Okay? I want you to work in groups, okay? And I want you to choose 2 from the list. Okay? It could be any 2 of the list. Okay? I'll give you 5 minutes for that. Please begin. Another group wants to volunteer. They can start writing their words. What about back here? This seems to be an eager group back here. Huh? Anybody want to volunteer? You're Diana's sister, right?
Yes.
Okay. Are you Isabel?
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth.
I
Okay.
don't know,
You want to go up?
No.
No? Okay.
Not
you
for
should-
now.
Okay, it was your first time. Okay. What about you, Marina?
I'm not sure about 5 things because we are still looking.
You're still okay? All right. Keep on. So what about here? We have a volunteer?
We got technology down.
Yeah, you want to get up there? Get up there, man. There you go. Okay, get ready. And then you can sit in the front row. You gotta-
Right, shall I put
just keywords and then you explain them. All right? Any more volunteers? Any volunteers from this group? Nicholas, you want to get up there? All right, there you go. All right. Get up there. Have a seat, James. You're going to go first. Yeah, that doesn't matter. That's okay. Choose another one if you can. Choose another one. If you can. If you can. Yeah. You feel confident about technology, huh? Okay, James, you're up. Everybody, let's listen to James.
Good afternoon, I'm James. So my group and myself, we chose the activity or task, and firstly, which we feel is very, very important, is to plan. Planning is very important because we can't just open the textbook and demonstrate a class. We've got to know what we're doing and get inside the book. So this is what we said for number 1. Secondly, instruction giving. Instructions must be clear and easy to understand for students so that we don't confuse things, overcomplicate things, end up spending 20 minutes explaining things to different students. And then third, we had motivation. Students are going to be motivated to do things, we're going to make it a little bit fun, they want to enjoy it. We're in an English class, it's 2018, it's not 1970. And then
Although that was a good year, 1970.
before managing students, because a lot of the time if we're doing activities and tasks and we put people in groups or in pairs, it's important to understand and get to know students because I'm sure many people have had the same issues where students do not want to work together. They refuse to work together. So you have to manage the students and know who works best together. And then finally we chose challenging, okay? Because we don't want it to be too easy, and we don't want it to be too hard. But it must be a challenge, and the challenge is also motivating. So these are our 5 points.
Bravo! Right on. Great job, James. All right, good. Thank you. Next, Charles, get up there.
Cool. I'm just gonna make a quick adjustment.
Okay. All right.
All equipment. Okay, cool. So I'm Chris. We chose technology. So the first one we thought is really important is like the equipment works. So you don't want to get into like a classroom and realize that like there's a radio but the radio doesn't work. Number 2, make sure that you have all the equipment. Like don't forget a CD or don't forget like a remote control. So make sure that you have it all. Number 3, make sure that you're using the equipment relative to the objective of the class. So it's relevant to the class and to the students' needs. Number 4, make sure the students understand why they're using it and how they're using it. So if you give them a computer, they're not just on Facebook. Number 5 was well practiced. I don't know what my point was. Well, I had 5. I had 5 points.
Okay. Anything else come to mind, or
5 points.
do you want to wrap it up?
Like, make sure that it's.
The answers are okay.
Check you have the equipment. Check it works. Check you know how to use it. Check students know what they're doing with it. And 5th is relevant to the class objective.
Well, what do you guys say? Is that good enough?
It was-
Yeah?
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Chris. Nicholas.
Hi, well, my name is Nicolas. We chose lesson planning. Okay. Well, we think that first we have to set up the objectives, obviously. Second, to set up activities to know what are we going to do in our class. The third point is the timing. We have to know how many minutes is going to take the certain activity or certain reading task. You see. 4 is the material that we're going to use. Maybe we can use how many copies are we going to use, or I don't know, maybe we're going to use a ball or whatever thing that we can use. And 5, to give the feedback to the students, because it is very important since they can improve their level or whatever. So that's it.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Now, 3 questions related to what was presented here. A couple of challenging situations, for example, with the activity or task. See, I'm forgetting too. No, see, you're not alone, Chris. I just forgot myself. I was going to say something about this. With technology, what do you do if you think the radio is going to work, right? The CD player is going to work, and you're going to play the audio, and it doesn't? What do you do? Ronald?
One thing that I've done in the past, and this was from Cleaver, do you know the teacher Cleaver?
Yeah.
He told me that in the back of the book, the tape script, you can read it yourself, but I'm reluctant to do it just because I think they might get sick of my voice. But I may have the assistance of another student to read that tape script. And the other thing, of course, is always know who the tech guy is in the building.
It's a good idea. Know him by name and call him. If you can't text him or whatever you got to do. Good. I remember there was a TESOL, the first TESOL convention I ever went to was in Vancouver, Canada. And the guy had to give an opening plenary. They open the curtains and that gets the whole show started, right? So it's a really important presentation. And the guy, he had his laptop, everything was all hooked up, and it didn't work. The projector didn't work for some reason, okay? So the guy had to improvise, and he did a spectacular job. Okay, he did a great job. You know, a plenary usually lasts about anywhere between 50 minutes to an hour. It shouldn't go beyond an hour, but at the most an hour and 10 minutes. So the guy had to talk for an hour and 10 minutes without the support of the presentation he worked so hard to prepare. And he did a great job. So we have to be resourceful. When things don't work out the way we planned, we have to have a plan B, okay? So for example, Ronald, he just mentioned, go back to the tape script, find some good students who are really high performers and let them help you with that part of the lesson. But you always have to have a backup plan. You can't just sit there and say, oops, what am I gonna do? And freeze. The mannequin challenge, remember mannequin challenge? With that grammar lesson, no mannequin challenge, don't do no mannequin challenge. And over here, when it comes to feedback, what kind of feedback do we need to give students? Like when we're working with students in class, we have to give, you're right, Nicholas, feedback is really, really important. Okay, first of all, why is it important?
You have to be aware sorry.
Fernanda, go ahead.
You
Yeah.
have to be aware of how, if they're improving, right? If they're doing well, and also when you say that they're doing something well, they feel good, so they're gonna keep responding, right?
Right, study, that's good. So first of all, am I doing well? Was what I said good, not good? Do I need to correct it? Second, research has shown that students expect feedback, and a lot of it. And sometimes they expect too much. So we have to kind of educate our students so they understand when feedback is appropriate, when it's not appropriate, when it's good for them, when it's not necessary. But they want feedback, and they want to hear. It feels good. It's like when you're working, right? You're working somewhere. You're working here. You're working anywhere, or even with your family. When you do something right, you want to hear, "Hey, that was great. I love the way you gave that speech." Right? Yes, Ronald.
Even just very general feedback, if they've just read a paragraph or something, you could say, hey, that's really good reading. You've been practicing, or you notice improvement, something like that.
Very
I mean,
nice.
It has to be sincere, but.
Yeah, it has to be sincere, but you can lift a person's spirits, right? They come to class. Sometimes stuff isn't going so well out there, but they come to class and they find a nice, comfortable environment that embraces them, where the teacher really cares and makes them feel good about how well they're doing. If we can do that for them, that would be great. Yes, James?
Just even also little things like, so say for example somebody reads something out loud, or they demonstrate something and then say, yeah, that was excellent, and then clap. Get the whole class
That's
involved
nice.
and smile.
That's nice.
And then gives them a bit of energy also.
That's nice. It's the energy, right? We need to have that energy flowing. Don't overdo it though. Don't be going like excellent, great, spectacular, fantastic, and then at the end of the month, oh, sorry. Again, it's not me. It's this computer. You know, it just adds the numbers. It didn't work out for you this time, but I wish you luck for next class. Okay. Yeah, Sebastian and James. Yeah.
We have to go to a more specific feedback in terms of the objective of the class. Maybe you can ask some questions to the students so they can clarify by themselves. So, for example, any doubt from James could be clarified for Henry. So
Right.
they're going to be to have some debate about the class. So they're going to share ideas to contrast each other.
Good, good. They can give each other feedback. Well, what do you say about Hamley's idea? What do you think? And he's going to give us his own appreciation of what somebody else said. So students can give each other feedback as well. You can create an environment where, and you have to teach students how to do it so it doesn't really make others uncomfortable. There's a certain way to do it. James, yeah.
Can I go back to your technology?
Sure,
category?
please, yeah.
You mentioned the problem when we call it a radio, but it's also like a CD player.
CD player, yeah.
And it doesn't work.
Right.
And another problem is some of the classrooms that I'm working in don't have the television sets or the big TV screens, so that we're not able to use that at all. And I didn't know if anything can be done about that.
They have just purchased another lot of TVs. They have a whole bunch of TVs that are ready to be installed. So we're going to have full implementation within the next 2 or 3 months.
Perfect.
Okay. I just remembered. Yes, Nicholas.
About what my partner said, I agree and disagree because I agree because it's okay that you motivate your students to debate and so, But for example, when I was a student,
Yeah.
I really hate that my partner correct my writing, for example.
No, wait a minute. But remember, he's saying, "Hey, do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you have another opinion that's a little different?" It's not the same as saying, "Hey, you know, what you just said is incorrect. Let me correct. Let me teach you how it's done." No, is that we're not encouraging that.
Yeah. His opinion is okay, but I'm talking about my own experience.
Right. Right.
So I don't think it's okay to, for example, to exchange your papers and correct the writing of your partner. It's not okay because I see it. Well, you're just my partner, and I'm a teacher.
Yeah. Go ahead, James.
So sometimes with writing activities, I'll say, for example, if they've got to write something, first say, what's your favourite superhero? They'll come up with a name, and I say, don't write your name on the paper. Write a different name on the paper. And then when you finish, I'll put it in the middle. Take a different paper, then you mark the paper. Put it back in the middle, and then you don't know who's marking your paper. You don't know whose paper you're marking.
That's a very nice idea. Did everybody catch that? Did you? Can you say it again? Yeah.
Like, just as an example, just ask, oh, what's your favourite superhero? You can use anything. And then when there's a task to do, say, don't write your name on the bottom of the task. Write a superhero, for example. When you finish, put them in the middle. Take a different sheet of paper. Then we mark it, put it back in the middle. And then you get your paper back, and you don't know who's marked it or the paper you've marked.
That's a great idea. Nobody takes it personal. You should have had him as a teacher. Okay, good. Another thing, I just remembered now, when it comes to instructions, you have up to 3 steps you can follow. What are the 3 steps? What do we usually do when we give instructions? Because James was right. If we don't give proper instructions, we don't give clear instructions, there's going to be a delay in getting students on task. Okay, so what do we need to do when we give instructions? What is the first step? Usually what everybody does? We read.
Read instructions.
We give them the instructions verbally, okay? We state the instructions. This is what you have to do. All right, everybody, listen, I want you to do this for a second. What's the next step? Bless you.
See if they understood.
Now, that's for the oral learners. They can hear, they can process it fully, but some people are not, they need some a visual reference. So what do we need to do?
Set up the scene.
Well, you can write as well. You model the task. You model the task to make sure everybody understands. This is what I want to see. So James, let's work together. Let's show everybody, okay? And we do the modeling. After the modeling, we still need to make sure everybody understands. So we do what?
Concept checking.
Concept checking, comprehension checks for instructions. We call on students, and then choral, everybody, okay, just to confirm. All right, because if we don't, then students will waste time getting on task. They will be like, ¿Qué dijo? What? ¿Cómo? ¿Cómo hacemos? Yeah, Fernanda.
But I think we have to be aware also if they got it the first time, because
Sure.
if you just keep going, they're going to be like,
Right, so it depends on the activity. Sometimes you don't need all 3 steps. Some of the activities are kind of, I mean, you can figure out just by looking at them what you need to do. So, but you still have to give instructions that are clear, concise, and can get them right on task. Okay, good, very good. Anybody want to volunteer for any one of the others? How about accuracy? Anybody address accuracy? What are 3 things we can do to improve accuracy or encourage accurate student writing, accurate student speaking?
Process writing.
Process writing, okay, good, good. Another one? Accurate writing or accurate speaking? Yes, Chris.
Peer correction.
Yeah, okay, but you don't like peer correction. Peer correction is an option. Peer correction is optional, okay? Peer correction is an optional step, okay? With some groups it might work, some groups it might not work, okay? You got to know your students, okay? All right, good. And what should teachers do to get students to speak more accurately, directly? And we said the word before, but this is more specific, honed in on what students say or students write. Starts with an F. It actually starts with C and an F. 2 words. Feedback is the second word. What's the first word? Corrective feedback. Okay, Akash? Good, good, good. Corrective feedback. All right, so corrective feedback helps students speak and write more accurately. All right, very good. All right, now, let's look at specific activities. Specific activities, speaking. So before we looked at different types of actions and activities that take place in class in general. So we talked about classroom management, we talked about lesson planning. Now let's focus on specific types of activities. The 4 skills, speaking, writing, reading, and listening. We started the discussion with reading, right? Grammar, vocabulary, and pronunciation. I'm going to assign each group a different type of activity. And again, I want you to do the same thing. Give us 5 must-dos or must-haves to make sure that that activity goes well in your class. All right, so speaking, you guys. Writing over here. Reading over here. Listening over here. Grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation. Take your pick. Pronunciation. Okay, good. Now, I'm probably going to call on different people this time. So again, I'm going to give you 5 minutes. Okay, please have a seat in the front row. James, you too. Fernanda, you're up.
Okay, we got pronunciation. We think that the first thing that we have to do is be aware, right, of the correct pronunciation. We have to be sure that we're teaching it right. Then maybe we could, the students have to listen, right, to the correct pronunciation, maybe from you, maybe from a listening, whatever you think is best. Maybe in some cases it could be right to teach them some common mistakes, right, in pronunciation, which there are lots of. Then repetition, right, so they get it, because sometimes they don't even get what is the difference between the common mistake and how it's supposed to sound. And of course, we thought that you have to use it in context, right, because it's not the same to teach how to say have to, or how to say it, I have to buy a dress, you know? So, yeah, that's really big.
All right. Does everybody agree with that? Yeah. All right. Round of applause if you agree. Nice job, Fernanda. Marina?
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. First of all, we have to introduce the topic with pictures, with images, with a video. Why? Because we are not Homo sapiens, we are Homo videns. So although the activity is listening, we have to be a motivation. We need to be a motivation. So for our group, this is important. The second is activity prior knowledge. What the student know about the topic? To activate the knowledge and so they can connect to the activity. They can engage with the activity. Get the gist of the listening. Elicitate questions to the students, and then a specific detail. Looking for specific details. And of course, a feedback. Otherwise, the information is going to stay in the short-term memory. And Piaget tells about the assimilation and the accommodation. So otherwise, they're going to be in the short-term memory, but we must look for the long-term memory. So
I haven't heard those 2 words in a while. Assimilation, accommodation. Very nice, Marina. Very nice. Good job. Good job. Okay, James.
Okay, thanks to the brain power of my group, we came up with 7 ideas for writing. And one of the techniques you can use is fill in the blanks so that they're not writing the entire sentence. They have contextual clues that guide them to make sense out of what they're seeing and possibly related to some other material in class that they recently studied. Because we're talking about digital natives, I don't forbid cell phones in class as long as they're using it to check their Google Translator or find something that relates to the class. When they're Facebooking their friends, then I tell them please to stop doing that. So this is a calculated risk, but most of my students tend to comply. Also, before writing, frequently, and thanks to one of my colleagues, she came up with this idea. We brainstorm with a partner before writing, help to create some ideas of what we're going to write. if you're not brainstorming with your partner, see, then you might just write something personal or some personal info or experiences you've had, because they already know what that is. They don't need a partner to tell them that. That depends on the exercise you're doing. I asked them to use key vocabulary or words we've just learned in class or in that unit, so that it creates feedback and repetition, as somebody else already mentioned. Sometimes I use pictures, like yesterday I brought in a Peruvian newspaper, the one that's in January with the Pope. All these people, or millions of people, are out there, and I said, choose a photograph that you want. Somebody chose a sports picture, somebody chose a picture of a car accident, and then write about that picture. And then, after they write about it, I say, please stand up and speak it. So what I do during the writing part is I go around and give them feedback on how to correct some problems that I might see in their writing, because I want to immediately and gently correct those problems. Because if they're speaking it and they're writing it and I don't correct it until later, then it's much more difficult to fix that problem, because it's now like a bad habit. So I try to use the writing as preparation for speaking frequently. So that's it.
Very nice. Applause. Good. John, last but not least.
Okay, our group, we did reading. First thing is the subject or the reading has got to be age or level appropriate. No point getting 14-year-olds reading about what it's like to work in an office. They have no idea. You've got to lead into it. You can't just drop the text on them and say, okay, read that, get on with it. Lead in, same as pretty much every other subject we do.
Thank you, James.
Explain any idiomatic problems they might have, any banana skins they're going to come across in the actual text itself. Because Google Translate doesn't pick up on idiomatic things like phrasal verbs. It doesn't pick up on them. When they've finished, get them to summarize so you actually understand, or you're certain they understand what they just read. Then a few questions for confirmation. Again, it shows understanding. You can choose the class, or you can get them to do it individually and give, if they're reading out loud, again, give them feedback on the pronunciation, how well they've done, areas they need to focus on, things like that. That's pretty basic for reading.
Excellent. Very good. Thank you, John. Good job. Good job. All right.
Can I add something?
Sure, certainly, Josie. Go ahead. By all means. There you go.
So I call it digital post-practice.
Okay.
So I set up an online classroom for my students, so I upload things for them that can be helpful, can be relevant, so like our PowerPoints and stuff. But I found a pronunciation dictionary online, like I use it for Spanish, I'm still basic and not very good. So it's called Forvo. And if they go onto this dictionary, they can type any word in any language. So hopefully they're using it for English. So I noticed they were all struggling with the word fever. I don't know why, they couldn't say the word fever. So on our online classroom, I linked them to the page that was about fever. And you can listen to a male from the United States, a female from Australia, a female from New Zealand, a male from the UK. Because it's user-driven, people upload recordings of themselves saying the words correctly. It's checked by the website, and then it's implemented. So they can effectively choose an accent they want to emulate. So I said to them, okay, you guys are all struggling with the word fever. I uploaded the link on the website, and I noticed the next class they were all saying it perfectly. They'd all listened to these various audio recordings of fever, and the next class they were all great at it. So I made them look at this. Like, they can hear it with a variety of accents, and I noticed they were trying to emulate some accents as well. So for me, it worked. Yeah.
Very nice idea. Fantastic. All right. Forvo with a V, F-O-R-V-O, F-O-R-V-O, Forvo, okay, .com. Now that helps you a lot fine-tune what is called external auditory discrimination, which is you can perceive distinctions between how people pronounce a certain word from modeling, right? The way other people model the pronunciation of a word. There's also something called Divi. I don't know if you're familiar with it. And basically what you can do with that, you can type any word. So that's very good. Forvo is very good for that external auditory discrimination practice. Again, getting different models, different varieties of English. Second, Divi allows you to see the words used in context. So if you type a word, you see like, I don't know how many videos. It's like a lot of videos, okay? A lot of videos in which authentic videos from series, from documentaries, where people use these words in context. So if you're looking for fever, for example, you might get a scene from a sitcom where somebody say, "Hey, it looks like you got a fever. We gotta get you something," right? Something like that. So you can see the language used in context, and of course you can also listen to the correct pronunciation. Okay, very good. What is a common mistake for Spanish speakers? I hear it all the time. What is a common pronunciation mistake?
ED.
What? ED? Good. Have you ever heard the T sound at the end of like every 3 or 4 words? Have you ever run into, I've run into people, actually they've been in the field for a long time. I've run into supervisors who, not here, and I had to give gentle feedback and say, hey, listen, have you noticed that every so often, every 4 or 5 words, you throw a T at the end? So it's like, he showed, and then it's, I can't, well, it's hard to kind of replicate, but you know what I mean. There's like a T that doesn't belong there. Where did the T come from? It's not even in the word. So it's a T every 4 or 5 words. It's like, t, and then, and it's like, wait a minute, where's that coming from? And that you have to kind of tell the student or the supervisor or the head. You have to tell you have to say, hey, listen, have you noticed that every 4 or 5 words you keep on throwing in a T? So we have to get them to listen to themselves. That's internal auditory discrimination. External when you're listening to other models. Internal when you're listening to yourself. You're perceiving how you articulate the sounds yourself. So you need a recorder. So say something and then, hey, I do say that every 4 or 5 words. What's going on? Yeah? Okay, good. Very good ideas. Excellent. I see we're making great progress. Now, we're going to watch a class. So now we have a clear idea in general how we handle lesson planning, how we handle classroom management, how we handle activities and tasks, you know, the essentials, must-dos and the must-haves. And we're looking also at specific activity types, what we need to see. We're going to watch a class now. And in this class, we're going to watch it for a few minutes. It's an elementary level class. It's somewhere between A1, beginning A2. It's a pronunciation activity, a pronunciation lesson, but it's also used to encourage speaking skills or get the students to practice speaking skills. So
Hi everybody, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you today?
Fine, thank you.
The weather today.
Awful. Awful.
Okay, look at my 5 faces. Number 1, number 5. Awful. Which number?
5.
How do you spell it?
A.
Okay, one person. Go ahead.
AWFUL.
Okay, pronunciation?
Awful.
Okay, everybody listen. Awful. Speak.
Awful.
Very good or very bad?
Very bad.
Okay, 1 minute with your partner. Think of more adjectives for woo. One example?
Gorgeous.
All right, 1 minute with your partner. Think of adjectives. Okay? Go.
Number 2 is good.
Let's check together. This word here, pronunciation?
Dreadful.
What do you think? Very good? In the middle? Very bad? Who thinks very good? Very good. Oh, this school is dreadful. Very good?
No.
In the middle?
No.
Very bad?
Yes.
The same as?
Awful.
Yeah, awful and dreadful, the same. Today the weather is?
Dreadful.
Okay, pronunciation. How do you say it? Okay, stress. One. Where's the stress? 1 or 2?
2.
Brilliant.
No. Brilliant.
Stress 1 or 2?
1.
Yeah, 2 syllables, brilliant. The stress,
Brilliant.
1. So listen, brilliant, brilliant. Speak.
Brilliant.
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 For example, this teacher,
Brilliant.
the music, the
Brilliant.
food,
Brilliant.
the lesson. Okay, we're going to talk about last night. Yeah? Here is a conversation, question, answer. Hey, what? Oh, good. Slowly. Yeah? What do last night? Is last night now or finished?
Finished.
Okay, when you make a question, do, have, did,
Did.
because,
Past single.
and it's finished, past simple. Well done, congratulations. Good. Okay. Here's a question, okay? Okay, go ahead. What's the question? Think the okay? What's the question? Okay, listen.
What did you do last night?
Okay?
Yeah.
Okay. And here, cinema. What? Now, name of a movie? Borat, for example. Yeah? And enjoy? Okay. Don't write the conversation. Don't write it. You have 15 seconds. Think of the question and the answer. Speak with your partner. Okay? 15 seconds. Go.
What did you do last night?
I go to the cinema. I go to cinema.
What do you do last night? I went to cinema.
Time is up. Good. Okay. Victor, hi.
Hi.
Make the question.
The first,
The first question.
what did you do last night?
Okay. Answer the cinema. Okay, listen.
I go to cinema.
I went. Now or past? What's the past to go? Listen.
I went to cinema.
Okay. Tell me. Cinema. Okay, listen.
I went to the cinema.
I
went to the cinema.
Okay, here's the next question. Enjoy. Do you, did you, have you?
Did you?
Sandra?
Did you enjoy it?
Yeah?
Yeah.
Question?
Did you enjoy it?
Yes. It's
1 point.
brilliant.
Again?
Yes, it's brilliant.
It is or it was?
It was brilliant.
Was. Listen, it was brilliant. It was brilliant. Speak. Okay, very good or very bad?
Very good.
Okay, we're going to now look at the pronunciation. Where's the stress and intonation? Going up, rising. Going down, falling. Okay, so stress and rising, falling.
What did you do last night?
Okay. Stress? Yes? Sure?
Yeah.
Okay. What did you do last night? Now, is it going up or going down? Listen. What did you do last night? What did you do last night?
Up.
It goes up on do and then
Down.
no. This is falling. What did you do last night? Good. Okay, good. Okay. Now, where's the stress here?
Cinema.
Okay. Now, speak the sentence. Is it rising or falling? Speak it.
I went to the cinema. I went to the cinema.
Rising or falling?
Falling.
Yeah. Here's the right. Cinema.
Cinema.
Okay. I'm going to speak. Yeah. Listen and repeat. Okay. Everybody. If it helps you, you can do this. I do this. What did you do last night? Do you want to try? What did you, with your hands, look. What did you do last night? Speak.
What did you do last night?
Listen and repeat. What did you do last night?
What did you do last night?
I went to the cinema.
I went to the cinema.
Oh, excuse me. I went to the cinema.
I went to the cinema.
Lovely. Oh, really? Really? What did you see?
What did you see? What did you see?
Borat.
Borat.
Ooh, really? Good. Really?
Really?
Did you enjoy it?
Did you enjoy it?
Did
Did you enjoy it?
Number one. Ready? Yes, it was brilliant.
Yes, it was brilliant.
It was okay.
It was okay.
It was okay.
It was okay.
Nothing special.
Nothing special.
A bit boring.
Bit boring.
A bit stupid.
Bit stupid.
No, it was awful.
No, it was awful.
Okay. Now we're going to practice together and then pairs. Question and answer. Okay? Ask the question.
Hello, Sandra. What did you do last night?
I went to the cinema.
Really? What did you see?
Borat.
Really? Did you enjoy it?
Yes, it was brilliant.
Fantastic. Okay, with your partner, this is A, B. Okay? A, B, and then change. A, B. What did you do? This conversation. Okay? Go ahead.
What do you do?
What did you do last night?
I went to the
Really?
cinema.
What do you see?
Really? What did you see there?
Borat.
Did you enjoy it?
Really? Did you enjoy it?
Yes, it was brilliant. Okay.
Okay?
What did you do last night?
I stayed at home.
Really? What did you do?
I watched TV.
What did you watch?
One film. A film.
Did you enjoy it?
No, it was boring.
It was brilliant. What did you do last night?
I stayed at home.
What did you do?
I watched TV.
Did you enjoy it? No. What did you watch?
I watched Love Actually.
Did you enjoy it?
It was okay. Nothing special.
Okay. Did you enjoy the lesson?
Yes.
Okay. I'd like you to quickly discuss with your partners if you saw 5 must-haves or must-dos in his lesson and what they were. Okay? What are 5 positive things he really did well that helped this lesson? I think we all agree, right? This was a successful lesson? Yeah. Okay. So what are 5 things he did here that helped his lesson succeed? I'm going to call on different people. Just give me one point that you saw that was very positive about this class that you'd like to see in any activity or any lesson that's focusing on both pronunciation and speaking. Maureli, welcome. Give us one.
Well, it really caught our attention the way he used the pictures on the board to convey a meaning related to the adjectives. For example, he asked them what do they think about the vocabulary, about the feelings. He also made like a brainstorm to give them some ideas. And it was a really nice warm-up to start the lesson also. And another thing that caught our attention was that he was not only teaching pronunciation of words, but also the intonation to sound more natural when we are speaking English.
Okay, very good. I agree. Do you agree? Okay, very nice. He put a lot of work, and I think that's what we need to do. I mean, when we can, when there's time. I know sometimes we're a little short on time, but he put a lot of work into those pictures of different faces. It changes the whole nature of the lesson. It just makes it so more amenable, friendly, pleasant. I mean, you just, and the guy has such a nice manner too. I mean, it's just, and anyway, before shut up. Martin, did you see it? What did you see? Something there that you liked?
That he was full of energy, yeah. Not boring, always active. For me, maybe a little bit too active. It was a little bit too extreme. Yeah, but maybe out of the video, I don't know.
Yeah.
And also that guys have in the end the possibility that what you learn with a lot of repetition to practice that in a new conversation.
Okay. 2 points here with regard to what Martin said. One, you felt he was a little too active at times. That's the first impression I got when I first watched this video. I've seen it like 20 times. But well, you know what matters in the end? It's the result. Because I was thinking, well, there's a little too much clutter there. He's throwing in too much with those but you know, and then I had to shut up because I saw the end result, and they were very, very articulate. They pronounced the words clearly. They were able to come up with their own original responses. So I have to shut up. So keep your word clear. So something you got to be careful. If you remember, there's something called cognitive load. There are only so many things a brain can handle at a certain time. Especially if you're a student, you're a language student, and you're seeing things for the first time. And so there's a lot of stimuli. There are a lot of stimuli in terms of, you know, throwing all the hand and then it's like every 2 seconds there's a sound, and it's like, so it could be a little overwhelming for some. But I had to shut up because I saw the end result, right? And that's the result. But you have to be careful. You always have to gauge yourself. So Martin has a good point. You got to kind of measure yourself. If you see the students are getting a little overwhelmed because it's too much, then, you know, tone it down a little bit. Tone it down a little bit. Okay? Yeah, Martin.
Depends the age, the average age of the class. When you have, I don't know, middle 40, then you cannot be the clown outside.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's true. But I like this guy. I don't know. Do you like this guy? Yeah. I like this guy. He's got a nice personality, and it's like, yeah. I mean, it's nice to be in his class. You know. Okay. Javier. Yeah. Give us something that you saw. A point.
I like the interaction between the students. It was very fluid.
This is an elementary level course. In most cases, when you hear the word elementary, that's A2, A1. Excuse me, A1. Between A1 and A2, that's not much. Did you get the feeling? I mean, first of all, he's very careful in setting things up and getting them to practice and getting the pronunciation right, and then the end result, they have the interaction. Were they able to kind of come up with their own original responses? Yeah. Good. Javier, you were going to say something else.
Yes, and he also taught them the stress and intonation of the words. That's why he was drawing out.
Do you see that often in classes? Nobody's saying yes. It's in my classes you do. It's something we don't really emphasize so much, especially at the lower levels. You know, you look at the super segmentals when you get up to the high basic, low intermediate. You look at the super segmentals a little more. You look at the individual, the segmentals, the vowels, and the consonant sounds when they're basic. He starts from the very beginning, and he's trying to get them to. I think that's good. I mean, he specializes in it. He's comfortable with it. A lot of teachers aren't comfortable with pronunciation, especially at lower levels. So he's comfortable with it. Yes.
Yeah.
Your name?
My name is Diana. Diana.
Diana. Okay, Diana.
Something that I noticed is that even though they have the basic level, they were able to make up their own conversation.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't on the board. Like when he said, "Oh, I stayed at home," and what did you watch? The girl corrected herself. You said, wait, not did you enjoy it? No, what did you watch? She changed along the way. That's good. That means he's doing something right, because they're able to kind of conjure up their own language resources and adapt to the different circumstances depending on who they're talking to. Very nice. Charles.
I liked
Bill?
The way that he was able to keep the students talking, pretty much the whole time, and it was very dynamic back and forth. Like I think somebody already described it as fluid. I thought that was what was most impressive to me, and yeah, very natural feeling.
I mean, he's got his students engaged.
Yeah.
They like him. Remember, we talked about this likability. You have to be likable. They got to like you. Okay? If students don't like you, you got a problem. Your work is going to get a lot harder. Yeah? So we have to kind of make that connection. They like him. He's a likable guy. Now, it doesn't mean you have to be whistling all the time. Because I'm not good at that. I can't whistle. I kind of half and half whistle. You know, I was born in the 70s and I still can't whistle. But anyway, but he's good at it. So, but be good at what you do. And, you know, just be yourself, right? If you're yourself, if people see you're authentic and you're yourself, they're going to like you. Okay? They're going to say, yeah, he's the real deal. I like this guy. Okay? Doesn't matter what the age difference is. As long as you're likable. Or, as I said before, I don't know if they still say this word, but if you know, they think you're cool, all right? Teenager, especially teenagers, right? If they think you're cool, you're going to be okay. But you got to do your homework. I keep on saying this all the time. You've heard this before. You got to do your homework. You got to find out what they like. Does his class match the QLO Dynamics framework?
He didn't use technology.
He didn't use technology. Yeah, he didn't use technology. What about L2 output?
Yeah.
Yeah. How about motivational?
Yeah.
A lot of it. How about kinesthetic? Maybe we didn't see enough. I mean, they were kind of in the same places, the students. You might want to encourage them to. This is a rare case where you don't have at least 3 for like a resounding victory. He has like 2.5 of the 4, but he still had a great class. So it's not that easy to pull off with only 2 of the 4. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot we could do. I mean, we would be able to get them to be more kinesthetic, right? You guys would be able to get them to be more kinesthetic, move around, etc. Good, good, good. All right. So all of this leads to this, equals. And we're in the final lap of the presentation. And you're going to see the connection for everything we've done before and what we're going to do now. First thing now, let's look at equals. Now, what is equals? What are we doing equals for? What is that? Please. To meet the standards, so we can get a what? An accreditation. Okay? It's really, really important that we get an accreditation. Oh, by the way, should I say this or should I say this here? Yeah, I'll say it at the end. Yeah, we just closed the deal. It's done. So we're going to be implementing a pilot study in a few weeks. I'm going to tell you about that at the end of the session. So we have to think about who we are. Now, this is actually an exercise from Equals. They want us to think about these questions. Okay? One of the things we need to think about is, why do students choose us? Now, we've been growing enormously. We just got figures from corporate area. It's like almost 50% growth from last year. Our adult program, young learners programs are growing everywhere. We don't have enough rooms anymore. That's why they just changed the kitchen to a classroom, and they're doing all kinds of stuff in the back. We're out of room, and we're going to open up a couple of more branches. Apparently, they're negotiating because we have no more room left. So we're growing at an exponential rate. In the last 2.5 years, we've grown from 5 to 11,000 students, more or less. And so we're doing really well. So why are students choosing us? Why are they coming here now? Talk to your partner in 60 seconds. Be ready to give me some answers, okay? 60 seconds. Why are they coming here to Euridiomas? Hey, Ruben. Why are they coming here? They got nowhere else to go?
Talking about the small classes, in other institutes they have like 20 or more students in the class, and here they're like small groups, let's say 8, maximum 10 students. I think that helps them because they have more opportunities to speak, to show they can,
Okay. All right, Martin, you want to say something?
I think they like more this familiar topic. Yeah? Because last Saturday I gave the student your needs analysis already and checked it, what are the results, and mostly more familiar, less students, less pressure. Yeah? When I talked as they were before at IGNA, you know that very good how it's there.
I think so.
The students are more in the class.
Yeah.
They didn't like that. I think this is the main reason why they're here.
Good, 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 good. Other reasons? Yes, Sophie. Josie. Sorry.
I've got 2 things. So let's say you want to learn English, you'll first go on the internet to find a place. If you go on our website, it's modern, it's professional. If you look at some other websites for other language schools, it's like 1998 all over again. So we look good. So let's say they want to come and visit this branch. They walk in, the first thing they see is artwork and displays. So you actually see something that's not directly related to language learning, but it's about learning in general, so enriching your mind. So it's encouraging, I would say. And if you go into the bottom part, I've seen people walk in, just have a look and walk out. So it's about community and inclusivity as well. That's the impression they give.
That's an excellent point. One of the things that, well, I've always been saying, they don't always listen, but I'm not saying here, in other places. When you go to a language center, when you're studying a language, it's supposed to be a complete experience. It's not a learning experience, it's a life experience. And it begins the minute you walk through the door. And so Josie's pointing out this notion that, yeah, we have an art gallery. I mean, the minute you walk in, it's like ultra modern art gallery, a whole different approach. People are generally nice to you, very personalized attention. We're certainly nice in the academic department to everybody who talks to us. Wonderful teachers, more personal, like Martin said before, with the smaller classes, and Ruben also mentioned this. So it's a homey feeling, yeah, that you don't find elsewhere. All right, elsewhere you got these huge numbers, legions of people. It used to be 25, 27, under extreme circumstances, and now they're pushing them to 30, which is interesting. But that's one thing. Excellent. Yes?
Just building on what I said, when you look at the artwork and the displays that we have, some of the displays, they're about things that are happening all over the world. So you're kind of forced to think when you walk in, where could a language take me?
That's a very nice perspective. Yeah. So where can the language take me? And it's open to everyone. In other places, the art galleries are kind of reserved for an exclusive group of people. I know. It was reserved with the cocktails and the little things, and only certain people were invited. And it wasn't really open to everybody. This is different. Okay, very good. Another reason. Chris, you got one?
Yeah, I think that the course textbook is generally, I think it's a really steady book. It's has a lot of stimulus. It's a good basis basically for teachers to work on. It always gives quite a good description of kind of what they're working through, kind of what the overall aim is for that chapter. And yeah, when I read it, I find it quite oh, actually, yeah, I can also include it. It's just a really good basis basically.
Good.
For the classes.
It's a lot of factors coming together. You have the course book. We changed the program. It used to be a longer program. It was the longest program anywhere. Actually, it was really long. I mean, you were here, you had to study forever to kind of finish. It was longer than the other place where I used to work, actually. I thought that was the longest one, but, and then I reduced it there. That's one thing. And second, the methodology, the teachers, again, this whole different approach, this homey feeling. We got nice people, not all, all stiff with all these. Plus, we're not very demanding when it comes to policies and procedures, okay? We do expect you to go to class on time, but we don't mean, hey, you can leave whenever you want, but where it's not, there isn't that much tension, stress like there is in other places, and we want to keep it that way. Yeah. Sure. So that's something that really differentiates us. We shortened also the length of the program. We changed the course materials. We used to have a very grammatically oriented book, a lot of grammar. We got rid of that thing. It was around for 7 years. We got rid of it. We changed it for Open Mind. Open Mind is a little more demanding, and since we're pushing our students a lot, they're speaking better. I mean, I've been observing classes. I can hear the students. The level is really good. Okay, that's thanks to your work. So we really have to press our students. Cesar?
One of the students talked to me about her experience. She, a friend of hers is the one who recommended her coming here. Said basically because they can achieve the goals. They could finally end up speaking English.
Listen, that's the thing. We have to be familiar with the Common European Framework of Reference for Languages because it provides us with a profile, description of what people should be able to do with the language when they're finished at certain levels. So when you finish the basic level at Euridiomas, what should you look like? What should you sound like? What should you be able to do with the language? So every time, from basic one, every one of us contributes to that goal. So Chris might have a basic 1. I take basic 2. Cesar takes basic 3. Fernanda takes basic 4. Maureli takes basic 5, etc. Every one of us has to work together. We have to work together to make sure I do everything I can to get my students to learn as much as possible. And I have to assess my students correctly, because if I make a mistake with the evaluations, then I'm kind of passing a problem on to the next guy. Yeah? We have to make sure we're very fair, but we have to make sure that we're also accurate in the assessment so that we know whoever passes really deserves to pass. We can't say, oh, but she's a nice, but she came crying to me. You know, I remember I had a student somewhere in the universe. She came crying to me, and she was like, oh, my parents are going to kill me when I get home. Please pass me. I said, I can't do that. First of all, I'd be lying to you. I'd be doing a disservice to you. And second, your parents aren't going to kill you. And third, believe me, this is better for you. I can't lie to you. I can't tell you, hey, you passed when you didn't pass. Okay? And so we have to be honest with our students. What we have to do is we have to make sure we do everything we can so everybody succeeds. Okay? If we do everything we can, then most of them will pass. Okay? Not because we're giving away grades, but because we did everything we could to get them to learn. Does that make sense? Okay. I'd like you to think quietly to yourself for about a minute. How would you describe your own teaching? If I were in your classroom, what would I see? What would I feel? Okay, what would I find in your class? Think about it to yourself quietly. How would you describe your own teaching? So tell me what I'm going to like. And is there anything you'd like to improve? One thing that's specifically on your list, your to-do list, to improve, that you'd like to get better in? Okay, so think about those 2 questions for about a minute, very quietly to yourself. And then you're going to talk to your partners in a minute. Now, Mena, talk to us. Describe your teaching to us. If we were to sit in your classroom, what would we find? What would it be like?
Okay, maybe I would mention about what I feel, because here we are talking about materials which are motivating, but I've been here for 2 months. What I've seen is the material, the book, is kind of enough already. I don't feel the need to look for other things, because I'm afraid that I wouldn't finish the program, because what I see is already good, in my opinion. So I think that would be a flaw, because other teachers may bring in more materials. But as I see it, the book, the material is complete. So generally I don't bring in other things. I just work on what we have, and also I have a little bit of problem with kinesthetic, because most of the time they are pair works, and then they don't really, I don't really make them move around.
Now remember that kinesthetics is also the level of interactions.
Yeah.
So I'm working with Cesar, and then you say switch. I switch to Nicholas, Cesar switches to Sebastian. Switch, I switch to James.
But
okay?
do you really need to move around, or just to
It's a nice idea. How long are your classes? 2 hours, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a nice idea to get them to move a little bit, get them up and, okay? Now remember, look at the guys, they came up here and they wrote their ideas and they had to explain. That's a very simple dynamic, very easy to do, okay? Get them to move around, and also, you don't have to go all the time. I like the guy, he's good at it though. He knows how to do it. Not everybody can do that. But, you know, bringing like little pictures to facilitate maybe the understanding of the emotions, and maybe a PowerPoint presentation to complement what's in the book, because sometimes they need to see something visual, so simplified. Now, if you make it work perfectly, your students are engaged and they understand and they're talking wonderfully, okay? But usually it's a good idea to kind of bring something extra, okay? To complement what you have. For example, there was an activity some time ago where they were talking about renting an apartment, but you know, it's very artificial when you see it in the course book. So it's like these pictures that you never really see in the paper and that kind of stuff. So, okay, we practiced the language and everything, and I brought some classifieds from, what was it, New York Daily News or something, and they were renting apartments, and you know, they were all like, there was a list like 10, 15 different apartments that they were renting. and there was a lot of authentic language, but it was very little though. It wasn't that much, so students didn't really have to process that much. I had to pre-teach a couple of acronyms, but it was very engaging. So that's something like an extension of the book that doesn't really take that much time, but it keeps your students engaged, and it makes the language that they learn a little more meaningful in a real life situation. So, I mean, you don't have to create your own book. That's the point. But if you can bring in, you know, little things to add a little flavor to the class, I mean, think about it. Okay? Yeah, Ronald.
Well, sometimes I have things that are just really small and actually almost come from the book, or they're based on the book.
Right.
Like I think that the book is not showing enough or not being repetitious enough about certain points.
Right.
And so I'll make a PowerPoint with many forms of the same thing, or maybe the same grammatical form put into a dialogue.
Sure.
And then have them practice the dialogue.
Sure, that works.
That's one thing I've been doing. And then the other thing is just a non-traditional PowerPoint where it only has pictures. I got the idea from you. There was a thing with a whole bunch of celebrities. I just put a grid with a whole bunch of different celebrities.
Okay,
And I
okay.
said, well, which celebrity do you like?
Yeah.
And it was a good springboard
Good,
for
good.
conversation. But in the book, they had the same thing. It just didn't. If I relied on the book too much, they'd kind of sit there and go, oh.
Yeah. So every now and then you might want to try something else like that. Yeah? It doesn't have to be every day, every 5 minutes, but yeah. Okay? Hernan?
So, how can I describe it?
Yeah, what's your teaching like? Because you teach
Yeah.
German also, right?
Yes. I try to be dynamic in my lessons and my classes. I try to let the students really understand the main idea, and yeah. But there are something.
Are students smiling in your class?
Yes, yes.
Yeah?
They really.
Okay.
They
Okay.
enjoy my class, but I think I want to learn more. For example, how can I teach really grammar so they can understand everything? Also, that they can enjoy learning grammar, and that's what I want to improve.
Well, that's the next slide. We're going to look at that in a second. I want to make some comments about grammar, but thank you. Thank you for the idea. Anybody on this side who would like to volunteer? Akash! We spoke to Sagar. Now it's your turn, Akash.
So, well, I think, I am funny, I think.
Yeah? It's a lot of fun? Okay. Yeah, you are. Yeah. I've seen you do the classes. Yeah, okay.
So, in like the Senior 5 program, which is with teens, I am planning to have like a project. Well, I don't know that much Fortnite, which is a game of teens.
Okay.
But I want to give them like a project with video games.
Is that the one where you're connected on the network and you're running around shooting people?
Yeah.
That's what, I've been playing that. I got the number. I almost won yesterday. It's like my son got me into that. It's really addictive. But anyway, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm deviating from the main topic. I'm sorry. Okay.
So yeah, I want to have like that project. If they get like their first position, like they get a photo, and after that.
It's really hard to get to the first position. I gotta tell you. But anyway, go ahead.
In any place, but after that, play the game in English.
Yeah.
Like,
Good.
Take a photo and a description on how was the game.
Okay.
Or maybe on FIFA. So mostly there are men in the classroom. So
Yeah. Yeah, but there are a lot of women out there. The one that killed me was a woman yesterday. She knocked the heck out of me. She blew me up. Anyway.
Well, I like technology and aesthetic. Well, I like having games.
Okay, good. So he likes to gamify his class. And what, Hamley? Yeah, I haven't called on you yet.
Well, I think my classes, I try to get my classes interactive. As a teacher, I'm always interested in having my students understand what I'm saying, that doing many things, talking to them, modeling, showing pictures, writing on the board. And something I need to improve is time. I'm kind of hyperactive, so it's hard for me to give time to students to get the activities ready. So I used to go, in 2 minutes. So I have to work on that.
Okay, all right. It's the pacing. It's the pacing. Timing and pacing. Okay. Okay, all right. Where can we more or less estimate how much time we might need for an activity?
Depends on the
But when? During the class? Before the class, planning. When you're planning the lesson, you try to figure. It doesn't always work out that way. I remember some course books, they came out, the teacher's manuals, they try to give you a suggested time. It really doesn't always work out that way, but you have to have some sort of an idea. Do you do that? Do you write how many minutes when you're planning your lesson? One by, I'm going to give it 5, and then for this step. Okay, that's something. At least that's something you want to work on. James?
Just one thing about improving, because sometimes I think with my instruction giving, sometimes maybe it gets a little bit too complicated, or I talk a little too much when it's not necessary. But then when it comes to them understanding the instructions, like, how do I deal with this? Like, sometimes students, so I'll do comprehension checking. So for example, you're gonna read it, then you're gonna answer, then you're gonna do feedback. So we'll give the instructions, then I'll model it with somebody, and then I'll get the group to try and do it. But sometimes people look at me as if to say, are you really asking us to do this again? When you can clearly see that maybe half the class have totally understood, and there's other people in the class and they don't totally understand. But it's sort of like you're patronising them because you're going on with the instructions. You get what I'm saying? Trying to suck out of them. Well,
I think Fernando brought this up. Fernando brought this up before, and you have 3 steps. If you go all the way, it depends on how complex the task is. If it's a demanding task, different steps. So I got to explain it. Otherwise, they're going to get lost halfway. Then you do the 3 steps. If they can basically figure it out by looking at the page, you don't have to do all of that.
Because I'm still trying to make sure that everybody gets it, and sometimes they're just like, because I just feel if the whole class doesn't understand.
So there is a timing issue. So let's say you take a risk. You give the verbal instructions with some visual support. Yeah? Go. And then you see like half of them are not going anywhere. Okay, let's do it. Let me model it. You stop it and model right away. Okay. Okay, because if you just let it go. So it depends. You have to. It's like that formative assessment thing that we talked about. You're watching everybody. You're seeing how they're responding. Are they getting on task right away? Intervene right away and follow the next step until they get it. Because they might be acting like that because they're saying, okay, I got it already. I don't need to do this again. Yeah. So again, the 3 steps are there if you need them.
Don't always use them all.
You don't always have to use them. Okay? All right, James? Good question. All right. Let's look at some theory to wrap up the session today. Grammar. Now, was it you, Hernan? You brought up grammar, right? Okay. I'd like you to just look at that screen. Okay, we're going to teach grammar. We're teaching grammar, right? There is theory that refers to explicit instruction. In fact, in the readings, everybody's read the readings, right? You'll have access to the online assessment as well, okay? There's a reference to these terms. So explicit instruction, explicit learning, and explicit knowledge. How are they connected? They're all related. How are they connected? How do they lead to each other? Try to figure that out with your groups, okay? And I'll ask you in about 2 minutes, okay? And then we'll work it out together, because this is something you need to know, all right? Please begin. Okay, all right, Charles, go for it.
So explicit instruction is when you teach like the classic like grammar form where you write it on the board, make like the math problem, and it's this very cut and dry. Now we're talking about the phrase shouldn't have, and this is how we write it. This is how we use it. It's very obvious, explicit. It's very kind of directed at this one form, which leads to the explicit learning, where the student, maybe practices it a bunch of times and then maybe creates some of their own examples, which leads to the explicit knowledge, which is the kind of knowledge where.
Oh, let's stop there for a second, and then you can continue. He gave a long explanation. I tried to show no emotion, so you have no idea whether what he said is right or wrong. How many of you agree with what he just said? Raise your hand. Nobody agrees with Charles? Hamley? Ronald? That's it? He's right. He's right. Perfect description, okay? It's when basically, although Charles, he was kind enough to give us a more thorough explanation, it's basically when we're saying, hey, we're going to work on this today. I'm teaching you this today, whether it's vocabulary. He talked about grammar. Usually it happens with grammar. We associate it with grammar, which is the topic here today. But it can happen with pronunciation. It can happen with vocabulary. We say, hey, today you're going to learn this. Take out your books. Write out at the top as the heading for your notebook, present perfect today. That's exactly what Charles just explained. So the teacher is communicating to you, this is the objective for today's learning, okay? You wanted to continue now, Charles. You wanted to go with explicit learning? Or explicit, I think you were going in the direction of explicit knowledge. Okay, go for knowledge, okay.
So then explicit knowledge is the kind of knowledge that a student can access like that and then come back and describe very technically. Well, this is how I always say when I'm using the present perfect, I always say I have, and then I say the past participle of the verb. A native speaker wouldn't explain it like that. They just kind of know how to do it because they have the implicit knowledge.
Okay. All right, we'll stop right there. Oh, wow. Ooh, nice. Okay, but actually, he might be wrong. Sebastian, we're going, yes. You agree with him? Yeah? Nicholas?
Yep.
You will? Yeah. Cesar?
I think so.
Okay. You gotta say, of course! You gotta, I think so. Yeah, why not? Aureli?
Yes.
How many of you agree with Charles? Now. Okay. Yeah, he's right again. Good. You read that article. Yeah. Very nice. And what do people usually say about explicit knowledge in relation to true communication? What do they usually say? What is a common perception, a common belief about explicit knowledge? Hamlet, you want to say something?
Yeah. Maybe it is boring, mechanical, but it's important to know that.
Okay.
Explicit information and to match it, to blend it with implicit information.
Okay, but when we teach something and we help students develop explicit knowledge the way Charles just described it, is the belief that we can use it automatically for communication or not?
No.
Does knowing the rules allow you to communicate with that target form? The common belief is no. Okay, that's the common belief. But the article, like you read in the article, some of it passes on to, well, okay, before I talk. Anybody want to go for explicit learning? It's very similar to explicit instruction. It's just a different vantage point. Anybody? Fernanda, you're like, yeah, why not? Give it a shot.
I mean, I thought what he said was explicit learning. Like they're aware of what they're being taught.
The thing is, he gave the perspective of the teacher. The perspective of the student says, oh yeah, I'm going to learn that today. Yeah, it's very similar. So students are aware that they're learning something. They've been told. They can see the material. This is what I'm going to learn today. Okay, which is the opposite of implicit learning. Implicit learning, they're learning, but they're not aware of it. Okay, it's coming in here somewhere. They just have no idea. And then later, like, hey, it's like, for example, many years ago, I came to Peru. I went to Arequipa the first time, I think. I came to Peru, one of those summer vacations, and I got interviewed by a TV station. And this word came out of nowhere. I was like, wow, did I just use that word in Spanish? It was like, wow, unbelievable. Somewhere along the way, I learned it. So I don't know how. I have no idea how, but I learned it along the way. That's implicit learning, when you're learning things and you're not aware of it. Okay, it's just happening. Yes, Ronald?
This is what happens when you've been teaching for a long time too, that someone will ask you, well, what do you do in your classroom? And you think, I've been teaching since 1982. I don't really remember what I do. It's all internalized. So, but it's good for me to step back and look at what I do, and I can explain it from a technical point of view or whatever, but it's still the rules that we have internalized for English. And as you were saying, what's your name again?
Charles.
Charles. As Charles was saying, that native English speakers don't think of these grammatical points because they're part of our internal makeup.
Do native Spanish speakers think about grammar? No. It's the same. It's the same in any language. We don't. We just acquire it and we don't really know. I mean, I were to ask you about the pretérito.
Plus con
I remember plus con parfait or whatever in French, but could you explain it?
Not really.
Not really. He knows how to use it. If I were to ask, give me an example right now, he probably wouldn't be able to give it to me. But if he were in a real life situation talking to somebody else, he'd be able to use it correctly. That's the way it is with native speakers of any language, regardless of what we're teaching. But these are things we have to know. What about vocabulary? In terms of vocabulary, how many of you know what receptive vocabulary is? I've mentioned this before. Raise your hand if you're aware of the term. Receptive vocabulary. All right, James. In a second, I'm going to ask you. Productive vocabulary. Ronald? Okay. Exposures. Okay. And methods and techniques for teaching. Well, listen, I'll give you a quick lesson, real quick, because we ran out of time. Receptive vocabulary, James, can you explain it?
It's hearing it and understanding it and then responding with it, being productive with it.
Hearing it, understanding it, but not being able to use it. Productive is, like he said, you are able to use it. So there is receptive vocabulary that you can see on a piece of paper that you can understand. And like I mentioned in French, when I look at French texts, I can understand higher levels than I can produce. Okay, I can understand intermediate level text in French. Don't ask me how. I must have learned something. But when I look at it, I'm like, yeah, I can figure out the meaning of this stuff. I can't use it. So it's receptive vocabulary mostly. But productive is what you can use. So when you're in a communicative situation, I say, est-ce que vous parlez anglais? And I said, non. Then I'm in trouble. It's the end of the conversation right there. Okay, so, and exposures means how many times you have to be exposed to a word before you can learn it, before you truly learn it. So for receptive vocabulary, does anybody have any idea, more or less, because you have different figures depending on the study, but more or less how many times you have to see a word, be exposed to it, and process it before you can learn it for receptive vocabulary? Does anybody have any idea? Once? That's a little high. That's a little high though. That's more for productive. Productive is more in the range of 25, 30. Receptive is a little lower. It's about 10 to 12 times, depending on how you present, how you're exposed to the language. So you need fewer exposures to incorporate vocabulary receptively. You need more exposures and more practice and use to use it productively. Okay? And so that's important, because when we're teaching, if you think you're going to say it once and they're going to learn it, and then you want them to say it automatically, it's not going to work like that. So that's why we have to kind of recycle. We got to do a number of things so that they can see it several times, manipulate it, match, do whatever they got to do so that the brain is exposed to it and it's processing the information several times. Does that make sense? Okay. Finally, texting. I've said this before. Actually, I said it at the last meeting. I want to see if you remember. Is texting good or bad for students? For student writing skills, to be more specific.
We say good and bad.
Both.
How many of you think it's, let's imagine you can only pick yes or no.
Okay, yes.
Yes.
The thing is that they are not using a complete or accurate language.
Right.
They're summarizing all the time.
Well, that's what's commonly believed. The fact that you're always summarizing, you're not using clear language or full language and the words spelled correctly and everything. But the studies seem to indicate that the brain works more efficiently. So when they are required to do so, the important thing is that they know the meaning, how they associate the acronyms and the shortcuts to the real words. And apparently, I mean, they did studies both in the US and in Britain. Students do well on the verbal tests. They do really well. They do better than the regular students who don't text. So it's really amazing. Texting is actually good because they're engaged. They're motivated, they're processing, they know the meaning of the language that they're trying to communicate, they know the message. And so it's really good for them. So it's not such a bad thing, just like, I think it was John or Ronald who mentioned something about, or was it James actually? James, I think it was, who mentioned the thing about using cell phones in class. Okay? Okay, so with that we wrap it up. What I do want to mention to you, now Eudiomas has strategic partners. One of the things I want to mention to you is we just closed the deal with the City University of New York. starting in June, 2 weeks from now, we're going to start a pilot study. We're going to integrate, all their teachers are going to be integrated with our entire program, which means every single course starting in Basic 6 for adults, and then we'll see about kids later, we're going to be connected by video conference. We're going to have what's called remote teaching integrated with the regular program. That means that a native speaker will be connected to every one of our classes starting in Basic 6 every single month. That's about 250 classes. So 250 classes will have 250 video conferences with native speakers. And there are a number of different activities that you'll be trained on, okay? Where they will intervene, they will work with your students, they'll have one-to-one talking sessions, a number of things that we're working out right now. I just sent the proposal yesterday. So that means that everybody, first of all, everybody will be able to work with native speaker teachers from New York City. Second, because we have our integrated programs, when they finish basic, intermediate, and advanced, they're also going to get a certificate from the City University of New York. So it's not only Euridiomas, it's going to be two certificates, City University of New York and Euridiomas. And third, if a student registers in Basic 1 and studies all the way through Advanced 9, which is something technically they can do in 16 months if they do the super intensive program, they are guaranteed a scholarship to study 1 week in New York City with cultural tours and visits, and 75 hours of English study time, conversational and fluency development with teachers on campus. And you can either stay with an American family or you can stay on campus, okay, in one of the dorms. So that's going to be included for all of us. Now other places, what other places do, they send 11 people, or 12 I think it is now. It used to be 11. 11 people to London, but it's 11 out of 60,000. So it's like, it's not an opportunity for many. Another place I know sends 5 people to Maryland from what used to be 56,000, now they're dropping to 50 or 49. So they send 5 people. And 5 out of 50 or 5 out of 56 is not that much, is it? At Euridiomas, anybody, that's everybody who studies from Basic 1 to Advanced 9, everybody will have an equal shot to go to the United States. Now they got to pay the plane ticket. The university helps you with the visa. They help you with a B1, B2 level student visa. They help you with the visa. You pay your way, but the scholarship is there for you. Does that sound like it could be a nice deal for a lot of people? Yeah? Does it sound like it's going to bring a lot more students to Euridiomas?
Yes.
Yeah. And we're working on another deal. See, we're a little restless too. You said restless, hyperactive. So we're always working on things, and I think this is probably going to be a very big thing for Euridiomas. We also have the opportunity to work with Caprica Education, which is a US-based e-learning company. So you will have the opportunity. How many of you have been here for at least 3 months? 3 months. Or you're close to 3 months. If you're close to 3 months, raise your hand too. Okay. And if you're not, don't worry about it. Your time will come soon. So you'll have an opportunity to take a course at no cost with Caprica Education, an online course with an international certificate, a TEFL certificate from the US. And you'll be able to take it at no cost. Okay? So that will be coming soon. If you've been here for a minimum amount of time, 3 months, you'll be able to take it. And that will apply to everybody. Okay? So this is something we're going to announce at the branch level, also starting next week. I believe I'm going to give the same talk next week at the branch level, so if we will confirm. So if you came today, you don't have to come to the branch meeting, because I want to tell them about the strategic alliances that I just mentioned as well. And I think that's basically it. Any final questions or comments? Okay, if you already have more than 3 months, we'll be sending you a code that will allow you to have access to the course. Otherwise, you'll be getting it soon as you break that 3-month threshold. Okay? Thank you for coming today. Good work, everybody. Wonderful. All right.